It's 7 o'clock. Welcome to the Food Safety Masterclass. This Zoom session has been sponsored by Brendan Ireland, who is the creator of the Institute of Hospitality. 1. These sessions are a free resource and the people who present them get no remuneration. 2. No advertising is allowed. 3. Please raise your hand if you want to comment. 4. Please be respectful. 5. This session will be recorded. 6. It is hoped that everyone will put on their sound and video so they can take part, but if not, turn them off now. 7. Only people taking part in the live discussion will be entitled to a CPD certificate. Please email me at mail@stevepepper.co.uk if you would like one. 8. We are also looking for experts to help us run these sessions, even if it's a one-off in your area of expertise.
So here we are. This is neurodiversity as I understand it from my own perspective, to help me get through the next year or so of training when I'm asked the questions about how do you deal with neurodiversity on your training sessions. So I hope this is a use to people, and there's certainly some learning points in there for trainers, because I am a trainer, so this is from my perspective. And I am only going to scratch the surface. That's about all I'm going to do in 20 minutes. But let's have a go and see what crops up. Well, first of all, neurodiversity is something that recognizes that people think in different ways. No big surprise then, until you get people trying to put labels on things. And even I had to look some of these up just to, had I heard of that before? And certainly the neurodiversity at the moment is just an umbrella term for covering all sorts of different ways that people describe the way that they communicate or have difficulties in communicating with the world around them. So I would say, if you're somebody who wants to look into this, first of all, you need to sit down, do a lot of research about this yourself to understand it in the way that you wish to understand it. It's often quoted, and there's hundreds of slides. This is from Twinkle, which is a school education system. There are hundreds of examples quoted of famous or talented people who have neurodivergent tendencies, be it dyslexia, be it ADHD, be it any of those things. And I think this is a bit of a tricky one, because whilst for people who have been diagnosed or think they might have one of these conditions, it enthuses them that they can still be as good as anybody else. It also suggests that the only people that are famous in this world have a neurodivergent problem. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, really. But it is good to let people know that some of the people who we know about or have heard about have dealt with a neurodivergent problem, if you like, and had great success. So there's certainly a tendency from the research I've done today and last week to say we must stop saying that neurodivergence has got any particular negatives to it. In fact, we things like we've heard like ADHD, which is a disorder and so on, we mustn't start talking about these things as defects or disorders. They're simply differences, which is classically about diversity. Now, there's a lot of talk about neurodiverse workplaces and suggesting that there are some things that can be done at work to automatically make it work better for people who have a neurodivergent condition. For example, don't assume that someone's breaking the rules intentionally to do something that's a bit unusual or a bit different. Make sure that you don't surprise people with plans changing. And give people a reason for the change. Mind you, a lot of employers could do with doing that for everybody. Never mind people who have a neurodivergent issue. I mean, how many times have you been subjected to change and thought it would have been nice to have known, or to have been given the reason about it? That's something that applies to everybody. And the third principle here about workplaces is we need to ask people, because not everybody will declare they've got a neurodiverse condition. But we need to ask people, how do they want to be communicated with? What do they need at work, etc.? So a lot of these things don't just apply to individuals who've got a particular condition. They apply to all people, really. Use a clear communication style. Avoid sarcasm and euphemisms and implied messages. Provide concise verbal and written instructions for staff. I mean, this is the situation where we've been at work and working with other people, where those things would be better if they were dealt with for everybody, rather than just an individual has got a particular problem. Quiet breakout spaces, if we have them, and if there are situations at work where people can find places where they can be quiet and go and think for themselves and go and do some work for themselves, again, that's a good sort of general principle for everybody. But for trainers, I think we are often faced with somebody who may or may not declare that they have a particular neurodiverse condition that means they've got some kind of special need. And I think this is where I'm starting to think that I need to think differently about this, because this year I had 2 people who declared dyslexia halfway through the first day of the training, but their employer didn't know. And one person who declared themselves with ADHD and turned up wearing noise-cancelling headphones and a laptop ready to take notes about every word that I said. And you can get thrown about that until you understand that this is how this person can learn better. So I am getting used to the fact that I've got to look at who turns up and how they want to behave with me, and not be too prickly about, well, that's not the way I run my training. So I'm having to just rethink some of the things that I've done for years on the basis that I think I know best. So obviously our pre-course information for trainers is where you hope to pick up people who have particular needs, and they might be visual needs, auditory needs, physical disability, dyslexia, ADHD, and so on. And that one of those pre-course questionnaires that gives people lots of chances to say how they want to carry out the learning, alongside a pre-course information sheet that tells them how the learning is going to be. We're going to do a lot of information on PowerPoint, a lot of group exercises, and so on. The difficulty is that these neurodiverse conditions are frequently undiagnosed for the individual, or undeclared even to the employer. So you do get an occasional surprise, and it's not always declared to you at the beginning of a training course when you say, does anybody have any particular needs? It's unlikely that certain people who haven't declared it so far will say, oh yes, by the way, I've got dyslexia. It's likely to creep out during the day when someone says, oh, can I have the handouts on a different colored paper? And what you're wishing is, I wish I'd known 3 weeks ago, because I could then say, yes, it's there, you know. So you do have to deal with things on the spot, if you like, which can be quite challenging. Here's some particular implications for trainers. Is don't be surprised if somebody gets a laptop out and starts typing notes, because I think your first reaction as a trainer might be that you'll find that distracting. Somebody gets a mobile phone out. One of our first responses is, oh, we've got a ground rule about not using phones, except in the breaks. But I had somebody with ADHD who said, well, this is how I'm taking my notes for the course. And you don't want to sort of tell them off and then retract and say, I'm sorry. You just have to accept it. They might want access to technology like the Wi-Fi code, or they might want to wear their noise-cancelling headphones. Certainly people who have some neurodiverse conditions have more difficulty in understanding activities. And then if you're giving out a group exercise, you might need to make sure it's always written down, it's always on the PowerPoint, and it's always verbally explained. Something I haven't done before. I've been a bit casual with my activities, but I'm now learning I need to write everything down to help people who need to see it written down. Handouts for PowerPoint. I don't know if those of you who do training, but we're always precious about handouts for PowerPoint. Suppose we say, yes, I can send you a copy afterwards. But for people who have certain neurodiverse conditions, they need it at the time to go through your presentation with you. Now, some trainers, me included, occasionally will be a bit precious about saying, well, I want you to concentrate on me for the session, and I'll give you the handouts afterwards. But for some people with neurodiverse conditions, that's a real problem. And I'm thinking, well, do I really need to? What's wrong with somebody reading the handout rather than looking at the screen and writing notes? And nothing really wrong with that. It's not for me to decide how they're going to learn. So I'm starting to think now that I need to make sure that there are handouts available. I know paper, etc., or at least that people can have the PowerPoint presentation sent to their laptop before the session. That's how I'm thinking I might have to move. And trainers' bugbear is, when's anybody done a training course where there's been enough space in the training room for those people who want to just step back a bit? I've had people who wanted to stand up and move to the back of the room. I've had somebody, my last person who was ADHD, was a fabulous learner, wanted to sit down on the floor in the corner of the room and still listen to the session. And absolutely. And they were so appreciative that I didn't sort of say, well, can you not come and sit with the group? And when we did group exercises, the group moved to where they were sat. And I thought, you know what? That's a small accommodation to help somebody who would have difficulty otherwise. So there are some implications for trying to arrange your training in a way that nobody has to sort of complain and say, can you do it different for me? It should be normalized that we do these things many times. And by the way, today is National Kindness Day, isn't it? As far as I know. My daughter told me today, National Kindness Day. Be kind and be patient with people. It's not only people with neurodiverse conditions who sometimes want the exercise explaining 3 or 4 times. Explain it 3 or 4 times. But what's wrong with that? So part of this is making me think I need to do some things differently. And part of this, and I've only done a tiny bit of research, is making me think I should have been doing them differently anyway. Why do I have to be prompted by somebody who brings a particular difficulty to do what I should have been doing before? Something else I've learned and I have used is some people, in fact, most people, need a much clearer structure and direction to the training than I want to give them. You know, when someone asks for the program and you say, well, the timings, the program timings are only approximate. But there are some people who really do like to see structure in our training. So I think there's nothing wrong with saying at this, well, we'll start at 9:15, 11:15 we'll do this, and then lunchtime we'll do that, and be a bit clearer about the steps and repeat those steps during the day so that people don't lose track of what's coming up next. That's something I've learned to do, get a much clearer structure to my training rather than be so free-flowing, which I enjoy. But I'm just thinking, well, maybe my learners will say, so very well for you, David. You know where we're going, but we haven't the faintest idea from minute to minute. So I think I'm learning to give a little bit more structure on my training. And I picked one example now because, you know, like Stephen, your sessions could be hours and mine could be hours. I just thought I'd pick out dyslexia because it's reasonably common and people are more comfortable declaring it. And I just saw this graphic on the right-hand side that reminded me that you have to understand with dyslexia, this really is what they see in front of them. If someone presented me with that PowerPoint, which is, you know, on the right-hand side, I'd just give up before I started. I'd just think, well, I don't know how to read this. But again, with dyslexia, and I've been through the Dyslexia Society's advice for content, but you need to ask the individual what they want. They may not want yellow paper, or they may say, no, I don't need that. I don't need that. I need this. We can use dyslexia-friendly fonts because that's relatively easy. Anything with sans serif is probably good enough. This is actually a grayish background, but cream or grey background is generally better than white. Try to use relevant images, not cartoon graphics because look interesting, relevant to the actual content, and watch out for spacing, clutter, and colors, which is why I've put less on these PowerPoint slides than I might normally do. I've tried to avoid too many bullet points on every slide. But the question mark I have is, look, if this is making me think like I'm a fairly experienced trainer, and I'm rethinking how am I doing my training. Those of you who are doing audits, inspections, and regulatory visits might want to think, I wonder how I'm dealing with people who might have these difficulties that won't declare them to me, and where they're nodding when they've no idea what I'm talking about. So do we have to do our audits and our inspections differently as well? And that's my first thought, that it's time to give it a proper think and not just see people as bringing problems to us as trainers, but helping us learn in a new way and find new perspectives on our training. And that's my little bit. Open to discussions, questions, comments, or people asking Steve Pepper for his slot next.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. I think there's a lot of crossover in there between the audits and whatever, and I'm going to try and focus my session on there. But really some really good ideas on things like dyslexia, for example, where you sometimes have either yellow or blue paper or a slide that goes over which colours it. Mm. And the other thing with dyslexia that I found I was a centre manager at Rathbone training was that when you have blocks of text like that, right, and people just see rivers going down with a white space, and if you separate them into smaller paragraphs with white space between them, even for me, they're much easier to read.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, I do know I have only scratched the surface, but it's becoming imperative now because we're back to face-to-face training, and I don't want to just relax and do what I did before, which were good fun, crazy, etc. Because I've bumped into these few people this year who've really made me think, and they were working in a healthcare organization, the big one, and they hadn't declared their conditions because they were apprehensive about how they will be treated. So even nowadays, even in the best of organizations, people don't easily self-declare. They struggle along. Anyway, I'm just sharing what I've learned from it.
Well, I must admit, I always denied I had any problems, but I've got a form of dyscalculia. So when I'm doing my business audits, unless my spreadsheet is color-coded, I really, really struggle because the numbers just, I can't get my head around them. It's got to be something that I've designed myself. And the other thing is that I always laughed at people with OCD. There's a friend of mine who we would go and pick him up for the folk club, and he'd go like that on the door and say, "Is that door shut?" And he'd do that about 3 or 4 times. I said, "Yes, John, it is." And I was sort of like, back in the 70s, it was just a bit of a, we'd take the mic out of it. Yeah. And it wasn't until about 2 or 3 years ago that I started noticing my behaviour was changing. So now when I go up and down the stairs, I actually have to start on the left foot on the first step, then the right foot, and I go all the way up the stairs, and I do exactly the reverse when I'm coming down. So my left foot goes down first, then my right, and it's crazy. And I mean, when I'm sorting my drawers out, it's got to be, if that was a piece of equipment, it would have to be there. And if I've got something else, it's got to be there. Or if it's got to be something like a coffee mat, it's got to be in the right position. And I've only just noticed that over the last 2 or 3 years that I'm getting probably worse. I was probably like it before, but I wasn't aware of it. But it can happen to anyone.
If I was doing an audit nowadays, I give a blank copy of the audit sheet to the person when I arrive, and I say, "This is what I'm auditing you against. You can see what I'm auditing you against. There's your checklist. Let's go through it together." I've just shifted into saying, why can't they see the same structure? I used to think it was clever trying to hide stuff in years gone by, even as a trainer, like the surprise element. I'm now thinking people need to see exactly what I'm going to show them, and why can't they see all the beginning? So everything comes out now as a trainer. All my clever tricks and props, they're all out on the tables. There's nothing hidden under a blanket for a surprise. No. Because I've realized that that's very clever and that's very funny, but it ain't funny if you're struggling to even cope with the training day. Yeah. So why would I want to make it worse? Anyway, that's my personal journey as a trainer.
Okay. Has anyone else got any other questions to ask?
Yeah, Mark has.
Sorry, Mark, we can't hear you. No, I still can't hear you.
You're showing unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, David, I'm just wondering, do you think there's more people actually experiencing these conditions, or do you think they always have done but have not declared them? Because it's not something you possibly heard about 5 or 10 years ago, or I don't know.
Well, I haven't done that piece of research, so if I had a guess, it's just a guess that people are slightly more comfortable at declaring it than perhaps
Yeah.
it used to be. We all would have known children when we were at school who were declared, it depends how old you are, who were declared to be thickos or dunces or weren't capable of doing anything at all. And now what I'm thinking is, well, that was only because we didn't find a way to help them learn. So I think now at least people are diagnosed. I mean, a lot of people are clamoring for ADHD diagnosis.
The problem is that the funding isn't really there for the diagnosis of these situations. And there's a colleague of mine who was only recently, in the last few years, diagnosed as having ADHD. And she went on to get over that as much as possible. Now she does it nationally. She does it with the government, and she's one of the national representations for these sort of disabilities.
Yeah.
Welcome to the introduction to NLP. And I've tried to base this for food safety auditors and do it for the Masterclass webinar. So I'm trying to pull out all the bits that you might find useful if you're doing audits to try and get on board with people. So, neuro-linguistic program. A lot of NLP is based on working with others. So this presentation obviously has limitations in that respect. We can always go on and find out about this by doing a Google search or an internet search. NLP is an interpersonal communication model, and it's an alternative approach to psychotherapy based on the study of language, communications, personal change. And it was written originally in the 70s by two guys, one called Richard Bandler and the other one called John Grinder. You might know other people who use NLP in the work. One of those is Paul McKenna, and the other one is Darren Brown. I'm sure you've all seen both of these people. And
who is Paul McKenna? Never heard of him.
Paul McKenna is been on the go about 20, 30 years, and he uses NLP in his altering people's mindset in a similar way to Darren Brown does.
Okay, thank you. I know Darren Brown. Okay.
Right, but he's well known. If you look at Paul McKenna on YouTube, and you'll see loads of stuff that he's been doing. So, NLP, it's basically looking at your left brain functions and your right brain functions. So, on the left side, it's analytical thought, logic, language, science, and maths. Right brain functions is holistic thought, intuition, creativity, art, and music. In fact, my niece has just had a horrendous, what do you call it? Not blood clot, but where the brain has gone, and she had a stroke, and a lot of her left brain's gone, and that's affected her language. So that's really made it awkward for her. I mean, she's with it in other respects. She can beat me at things like Connect 4, but she struggles with the language. And that's all to do with left brain and right brain. And the other thing there is, if you look at that photograph that I've just put up now, you can see that in two ways. Is that a picture of someone looking straight at you, or is that a picture of someone looking to the left? Can you see the difference between those two? And that's quite a good graphic. So, what's the definition of NLP? Well, one definition might be, now let's play it. But if you want the official one, it's neuro-linguistic programming. So neuro to do with the brain, linguistic to do with language, and programming. Now, we all go through programming. For example, if I Well, to tell you, this morning I decided to get up early. And that was to do with my programming, because I knew I got this to make tonight and to get it all ready. But, you know, ordinarily, I mean, I lay in while 10, 11 o'clock in the morning because I don't have work to go to anymore. So, I'm on definition of NLP by Richard Bandler. So it's an attitude and a modelling methodology that leaves behind a trail of techniques, or as he calls it, wanton curiosity. You've got a 4-stage breakdown, and this is where we're going to get the water in a minute. So with the water, this comprises most of the brain than any other organ in the body. With estimates, people having to drink some water before and during meetings, and it can help grease the wheel. Drinking water is very important before any stressful situation. Exams, for example. We tend to perspire under stress, and dehydration can affect our concentration negatively. So if you feel thirsty, you're already starting to dehydrate. So if you all want to get your glass of water and take a good sip. You've got the steps. Exercise. And this helps improve blood flow to the brain, to switch on the entire brain before lesson begins. The increased blood flow helps improve concentration skills required, for example, reading and writing. So put your hand so there's a wide space as possible between the thumb and index finger. Place your index and thumb on the slight indentations below the collarbone on each of the sternum, right? So press that in a pulsing manner. At the same time, put your other hand over your stomach, over your navel area, and gently press these points for about 2 minutes. That's probably not 2 minutes, but that gives you the idea of what you could do. The next thing to try and get this meeting of minds is cross-claw. And this exercise helps coordinate the left and the right brain by exercise. The information flow between the two hemispheres, it is used for spelling, writing, listening, reading, and comprehension. So I'm not going to stand to do this. I'm going to sit because my back hurts. But put your right hand across the body to the left knee. So your right hand to your left knee. And then do the same thing for the left hand to the right knee. I just do this either sitting or standing. And you will do that for about 2 minutes. Now, I'm not going to do it for 2 minutes because I'm conscious of time. But that's what you can do if you're going to go into a lesson. This is what stage 3 of the 4-stage breakdown. Then lastly, and I'm going to hand out for anyone who wants this is hookups. This works well for nerves before a test or a special event such as making a speech. Any situation which will cause nervousness, for a few hookups to calm the mind and improve concentration. So stand or sit and cross the right leg over the left ankle of the ankles. So right over the left. Take your right wrist and cross it over the left wrist like that and link it up so that the right wrist is on top and bring it up. Yeah? Does that make sense? Now what you need to do is to close your eyes and do what I will tell you. So this is a breathing exercise. And what you need to do is put your head back, sit comfy in your chair, close your eyes, put the tongue to the roof of the mouth and breathe in gently through your nose. When you're ready, just let that breath out. And again, in through your nose, tongue to the top of your mouth, and then in your own time, just let that go. And again, in through your nose, tongue to the top of your mouth, and exhale, all in your own time. Through your nose, tongue to the top of your mouth, and exhale. Breathe in through your nose, tongue to the top of your mouth, and exhale. And you should start feeling in a short while, as you're doing that, a little bit like when you're going to sleep, or like when you wake up in the morning, you're still sort of half dreaming. And what a lot of this is about is normally your brain works in what they call alpha beta mode, which is where the brain waves go from right to left, and it gets very, very busy and noisy. And as you do this, you're actually going into alpha mode, which is where the brain waves go from the front to the rear and back again. And what you're doing is you do this when you're going to sleep on the night, and you're just creating that nice, relaxed feeling. What you'd also notice is, from where you are, you might hear the wind outside. You might be somewhere where there are birds, although it's dark now. You might hear other noises, but your audio will get much more acute, and you can focus in all these things as you're going along. And all the time, you're breathing in through your nose, tongue to the top of your mouth, and then in your own time, just gently exhaling. And do that a few more times. Listen to my voice. In through the nose, tongue to the top of your mouth, and exhale gently. And what you would normally do is you continue that for, say, 2 minutes. But what I want you to do is slowly put your hands on your knees and bring your focus very, very slowly, in your own time, back into the room and lift yourself up. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and bring your face back into focus. Now, when we do this as a group, as I say, we normally do this on a day course, I do the full thing, I do the full time, and we've got a group of people. And one of the ways of enhancing that is if you're with a partner, put your partner's hands on the front and back of your head, which makes it warm, but it also helps with the alpha brainwaves. And that is one way of getting very, very relaxed. So how does that feel? Are we all say, okay?
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
Good. Yes, on a way from her. Oh, yes.
Right. So, over 80% of neuro-linguistic programming is based on what they call well-formed outcomes. So we'll cover this in brief detail now. So well-formed outcomes. So these are the 9 well-formed outcomes. You might have 7, you might have 8 or whatever, but these are the 9. First of all, whatever you decide that you're going to do has got to be positive. It's no good having a negative well-formed outcomes. You've also got to visualize it using the visual, audio, kinesthetic, digital. You've also got olfactory and gustatory, so that's smell and taste. You've got to be able to start and maintain whatever it is you do. You've got to dovetail outcomes into win-win, not a win-lose. And then you've got to put into context, where does all whatever you're deciding to do, where does it fit into that bigger picture? You might have secondary gains that you hadn't thought of, but you also might have hidden losses. And I've got some slides to show that. So you've also got to think about resources. Have you got enough resources, either money or skills or whatever? Are they available to you? Next one is ecology. Is it sound? Does it feel right? Does your gut tell you that feels right? Because if not, then you shouldn't be doing that. And then lastly, what are your first steps? So, well-formed outcomes. There's an example. Is the glass half full or half empty? Or has it been reduced, or has it made a strong move? If it's half full, that's a positive. But all the rest are negative. When you're visualizing something, you've got to imagine it richly. It might be in full color. It might be thinking about visualizing, make sure that it looks and sounds right. So, for example, I've chosen this screen tonight with the thing rather than my normal white screen, which is what I normally have. And Karen Meadows has got the Hawaii in the back of hers, so you can imagine it richly. Sorry, say again. Sorry, Linda, what would you say? Who's talking then?
I thought a baby made a noise or something.
Oh, okay, that's fine. So,
I just wanted to say my background is lovely. It calms me.
Yeah.
It's a Zoom background. Don't know where it came from, but because it's moving, I find it very lovely.
No, that's fine.
As long as it doesn't put anybody off.
No, it's absolutely fine. So, 3, can you start whatever it is you want to do? And 3B, can you actually maintain it? So can you start? It might be, I mean, I think Margaret Thatcher said there are loads of people who are starters, but there are not many finishers. Yeah? But you've got to have dovetail outcomes. So maybe a work-life balance, but that sort of thing, which makes it dovetail with whatever else is going on in your work or with your life. So contextualize it, put it into context. So what do you think? Is this box useful? Would you say it is or it isn't? Well, if you like the curate's egg, parts of it are excellent. Depends what you want out of it. And parts are rubbish because there's a lot of different stuff all in one box. So make sure that when you get this visualization and you context it, make sure that it all goes in the same direction. Secondary gains and hidden losses. So you might have things that you didn't expect to happen, but you might have hidden losses. So that cartoon example, well, we've got diet food and lots of it. Yeah, so you can have these sort of situations happening. Then you've got resources. Have you got all the resources that you need to achieve your objectives, your outcome? You know, it might be money, it might be just skills, it might be other people, but whatever it is, have you got enough? It might be equipment. You know, if I turned around and said, oh, I want to do a training session, and like we nearly had tonight where I couldn't get the screen sharing working, we'd have had to cancel it. But fortunately, Brendan sorted it out. Well-formed outcomes, ecology. So this is the art and the science of managing consequences. Will they be positive or negative in the short, medium, or long-term use? Is it ethical? Does it fit in? Listen to your body and what it's telling you. If you've got feelings 100%, then my guess is go for it. First steps. So what would be your first steps if you're doing well-formed outcomes? Yeah, I mean, Dave's already said before that he'll be looking at developing new ways of training. So for the rest of you, there might be things when you're doing your audits, what are going to be your first of your well-formed outcomes the next time you do an audit? What are you going to concentrate on? Are you going to concentrate on the personal skills? Now, this one, you might need to be a little bit careful. You might need to ask permission first, because this could, in theory, be deemed as being sexual or non-conducive or whatever of hugging someone. But the thing is with a hug, this is what the hug does to you. A 20-second hug releases the bonding hormone and the neurotransmitter oxytocin, which is a natural antidepressant. And if you think back to the last time that you hugged your partner, or you hugged someone that you've not seen for a while, and how did that make you feel personally? But again, you've got to be very, very difficult. You've got to be very, very careful with this one. And if I'm doing this as a group, I will say, look, if you don't want to do it, then don't bother. Now, I'll give you an example. When I was brought up with my mum and my dad, we were totally non-hugging. And when I first met my wife, I went to her parents for a meal and all the rest of it. And Jackie's mum came over to me and gave me a hug. And, then later, which felt strange because I wasn't quite used to it. Then later on in life, I was one of these people when I worked at Rathbone as a housing manager. One of the girls came in one day and she was very upset and hurt and whatever. And I was the one that said, "Oh, I'll go and make a cup of tea." And afterwards, someone said, "Well, why didn't you just comfort her and put your arm around her?" I said, "Well, I don't feel comfortable with it." Well, if I'd have asked for permission, that might have been the right thing to do. But again, you've got to be very, very careful. So, accelerated learning and the power of visualization. Accelerated learning. You can do this by crossing your hands, am I saying? Now, I want you to all just fold your hands. Yeah? Then unfold them. Then fold them again. And then unfold them. Then fold them again. Now, I want you to fold them the other way. Oh, yeah. And then do that again. And again. And again. Now try and fold the arms the way you originally did it. How easy is it to do that? It isn't, is it?
It is for me. Sorry.
Oh, well, there you go. This is some thoughts on visualization. This is from an old Samsung advert a few years back.
Nice.
So ostriches can't fly, but that was a VCR thing. Well, that was an advert from Samsung. But that just shows you, if you think of accident, you can do one pair. Now, when you look at this high diver was on the last of her Olympics going down, and she made a mistake. So she went to her coach and said, "Look, I'm going to fail at this. And I just know it's going to happen, I'm going to fail." So the coach just took her one side and said, "Right, I want you to imagine that you're going to do that and it's going to be 100%. And he made her go through it mentally 2 or 3 times. And then when she came to do it, she got a gold. And for anyone who remembers Johnny Wilkinson, who was the rugby guy, when he was doing a conversion on rugby, he would be looking at those goalposts out there, and what he would do would be he would imagine that ball was going through the post. And nearly every time he did it, that was conversion was completed because he thought about it. And if you don't think that that is powerful enough, I want you to look at this next slide. So can you not think of a lemon?
No, I can't. I have, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what visualization is. That's how powerful this is. Now you've got this thing called anchoring. So aniseed balls, Anglo bubbly, sherbet dabs, fruit salad, pomegranate, candy floss, toffee apples, Wonderwall with oasis, Vivaldi's Four Seasons, the smell of fresh mown grass, seaweed, autumn leaves. All of these things, what I call anchoring, will take you back to a place, will take you immediately back to the more positive anchors you can call it better will help your state. Now, my wife, I've been using anchoring techniques for more years than I care to remember. If my wife says, well, where do we go to on this micro-car rally? I said, oh, it was been 1987, and we went to, I can't remember the name of the place now, but it was at this place. And how the hell do you remember that? I said, oh, well, in 1987, I was working at Rathford English Churches Housing Group, and it was in the summer, I think it was in July or August, and it was this, and all of these little anchoring points helped me get to that time. So that's what I use on an ongoing basis to help my memory and keep it alive. So if something happens that I need to remember in future, and it could be years down the line. For example, I'll show some people this fruit, which I bought last night. Now, I'm going to take some of the seeds from here and see if I can grow them. I think it's an African fruit. And basically, I've taken a photograph of it. I will remember the fact that I've done it on the 13th of November. Yeah. That's been in a year's time. I can probably still tell you where I got it from. So, moving on to the report. Zig Ziglar, who died in 2012, was a marketing person. And he says it doesn't matter how good your product is, it's how much people know, like, and trust you that counts. People really don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So if you really care for people, that's what will get them to buy into your service, whether that's a product, a service, or auditing, or whatever. And another one was, if you want to gain support from someone, the use of Ivan Misner's B&I technique of doing something positive for them without asking them for something in return. It sort of creates a feeling that they need to pay you back for a favour. Now, when I was senior cook at Bempton Lane Hospital, I'd applied for the job back in the 70s and not got it. And apparently, I found out later that the head cook was a lady called Maisie. And Maisie didn't like men. She wouldn't have men in the kitchen. And Maisie and Penny, my kitchen porter, were like that. Yeah? They were really, and there were even stories of them having vodka parties on a Sunday afternoon when the manager wasn't around. So anyway, eventually, back in 1984, I got a job as senior cook at the hospital. And Penny was okay, but she wasn't really on my side. She'd do a job, and she was very good at the job. But if I needed any help or support, I didn't get it. Then one day, Penny came in, and she looked really odd. So I said, "What's up, Penny?" She said, "Oh, it's Maisie here." And apparently Maisie had been going out with a younger West African man. And so I said, "Well, what's wrong?" "Well, he's trying to join the wine club, and they just keep refusing him." I said, "Well, that shouldn't happen." And my father-in-law and my mother-in-law were in the wine club. So in my own time, I went down and I said, do you realise that this guy could claim racist comments against the wine club in Bridlington? And he said, oh, no. And what next thing I knew was he'd been invited into the club and he was making wine and all sorts. And the minute that Penny heard that, I could do no wrong. She worked for me, not against me. And she would cover for me if I needed to go somewhere else. Because I'd done something without asking for anything in return, and I'd done something to help her and a friend. So that was a good example. So it's a quality and harmony of recognition and mutual acceptance between people when they're at ease with one another and where communication occurs easily. So we tend to find people that we like people that we like. We like people who are like us. So there's an essential basis for successful communication. If there's no report, there's no communication. So these are the 6 senses: the visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and digital. And the digital is not so much a way of thinking, but a way of thinking, not doing. So sight, hearing, touch, thinking. But you've also got gustatory, which is taste, and olfactory, which is smell. These are 6 senses. And what I'm going to show you now is a 4-paragraph nursery rhyme or fairy tale using these different senses. We normally do this as a live session, whereas I ask someone to start the fairy story off, then the next one, and we go around, we do these 4 different ones. But I've just done it as a slide so you can see it.
Little Red Riding Hood was walking through the forest. The trees were green. Out of the bright blue sky the sun was shining through and bathed her in a bright golden yellow. As she walked through the forest, she heard the twigs snap. The rustle of her cape matched the rhythm of her shoes on the footpath. This made quite a loud sound. She also heard the birds singing. She was glad that the cape kept her nice and snug. She knew that it felt really nice and comfy. She went along to the old gnarled oak door that belonged to her grandmother's house, which felt snug and warm. She walked into the room, taking about half a dozen steps to get there. In her basket she carried a dozen jars of homemade jam and a 1-kilogram bag of sugar. She put about a pint of water in the kettle and put 2 teaspoons of sugar in the tea for grandmother, with just a couple of ounces of milk made with a single tea bag.
Now, people who are either being learned or people who you go into audits, most people have got one or more of those senses. Now, unfortunately, I love graphics, I love colour, but I also like my hearing, which is why I play music. I'm not so bad at kinesthetic and digital, but what you find is if you can identify what your target audience is thinking, and you can deliver your training or your auditing in a way that matches the way they think, you're going to get along a lot better, and that's going to help with your report. And one last thing I want to show you, self-limiting beliefs. So what can't you do? Out in, I think is it Taiwan? No, Thailand. What they do with their Asian elephants out there is they chain them up when they're young, and they might keep them chained up for 2 or 3 years. And the elephants then can't believe they can crawl more than 20 yards away from where they were originally chained up. And that keeps them in one place. And eventually, when you unchain them for work or whatever, they will never try and go beyond the area that they're in because they don't believe it's possible. So I'm sure that you've all got things that you were told as a kid. I mean, if I take a young child...
That's abuse.
Sorry, say again?
That's abuse.
That is abuse, yes. But what I'm saying is, it's an example of what is it that you can't do. I mean, I'm good at visuals, but I'm crap at drawing. And I can't, with the hand, I can't write. Why can't I do that? Because I was told as a kid I was no good at artwork. So that became ingrained in my system. So I express my my ability in other ways. So, I might do graphics and do PowerPoints and do all sorts of visual stuff, and I might play music, and that gets me around that. So there might be things that you can't do. So, any questions?
Yeah, no, Steve, very good, very good.
An observation, Steve, self-limiting beliefs on training courses. They're rife. I can't learn this. I don't know this. I won't be able to pass an exam is the commonest one.
Yeah.
I can't do multi-choice tests, and the amount of work that you and I have had to do with people to show them how a multi-choice test is constructed so that they can read it and understand what it's asking and why it's not catching them out. But that self-limiting belief is very strong in training courses.
Yeah. No, that's useful to know. But, anyone else got any thoughts, questions, comments? Have you enjoyed tonight's session?
Oh, as ever, Steve.
Well, as I say, I've enjoyed doing it, and I'm sure Dave's enjoyed doing his bit. The only thing I would ask is that if you want a certificate for attendance, then we do need to make sure that you're actually on the course, and we'll check back on the video later to do that. But also, I'm obviously we've now lost Brendan. Brendan can no longer spare the time to come on. And it was between me, Brendan, David, and guest speakers who were coming from time to time. Now, I think that most of the people who come and watch these videos and come on these sessions have got areas of expertise that even if they only do half an hour session, could probably bring something to the webinar to help others learn.
Well, yes, please. I mean, Steve, we've been doing this between you and me and Brendan. But you and me started off with Google Hangouts back in the annals,
2015, wasn't it?
Annals of time. So you've even if you've seen by my demonstration tonight, we're not asking you to be an expert in anything. We're asking you to give your own perspective. You'll see everyone's always very respectful and give people the time and let them say what they want to say and ask a couple of questions. But everyone I've done with you and Brendan, I've taken something away thinking, I hadn't thought about that, and I'm going to get on Google or now artificial intelligence, and I'm going to find out a bit more. And that's what this is about. So we'd love to hear from you. And anybody who's either on here or watching the video, pick your topic. I can do 15 minutes on and come and give it a go, because otherwise I think we'll not be doing them every month, Steve, because when it comes around, we're always just thinking, well, what we're doing. They might be less frequent.
Yeah, I mean, my worry is if we do it less frequently, we won't get the input.
I know.
So that's why I want more helpers on board.
Yeah.
To give their all. I mean, I've been retired 2 or whatever years, and I still like to keep my hand in on this because it's good for the old grey matter. And
even the people out in front of me, I know you all well enough to know that you can jolly well do this. I'm looking at particular people and I'm thinking, come on, give it a go. You can always contact me or Steve separately and say, what about this and X, Y, and Z, and it's pretty bog standard, isn't it? It's a PowerPoint presentation, chatting to it and taking questions.
It could be a video, it could be anywhere, could be just a talk. But it needs to be on an area that you would consider yourself to be an expert in. Something that, may be part of your job that you've got better knowledge than you had a few years back. And you want to pass that information.
Don't tell them they've got to be experts, Steve. They'll never do it. It's have expertise in, please, or experience in.
Well, experiences, yeah.
That would be really good. It's lovely seeing you every 4th or 5th Monday night. Rachel's going to say something. Oh, you're just pointing.
Karen, maybe.
Karen, go on then, Karen. Oh, there's the hand.
Hiya.
We can hear you
You
now.
may know everybody. I don't know everybody. I only know Helen and you briefly and Steve briefly. I don't know everybody else. So it'd be quite nice, actually, I think, just to just talk about our expertise if we've got any, or even just what our general experience is, because that may maybe encourage people to think a little bit about what they could talk about. So Steve and I have had a bit of an email conversation today about training, and and I have written a training course and I'm keen to write others, but it's what's needed. I mean, I'm very much of I really like this subject, I'm going to write about it, but is there a need? I don't know, probably not, but I'm semi-retired now, so I'd quite like to have something that I can put somewhere that people can just use for information, and I do videos and all sorts of things as well. So
what were you thinking about doing it on?
Sorry?
What were you thinking about doing it on?
Well, I don't know. At the moment, I've already written a course on sous vide, which is mainly for chefs, but also I've had EHOs looking at that too, because it's not scientific terribly, whereas the sous vide course that I did was super scientific.
Yeah.
And it's too much for a lot of people. So I've not dumbed it down, but I've made it easier. I wrote one on acrylamide when acrylamide was very much in the topic of the moment, and I'm looking at health and safety in kitchens and catering, because I've spoken about that on radio, and I'd quite like to do something. My background was environmental health and safety and food safety, so they were all together.
Yeah, I think all of those subjects would be useful.
Yeah, food waste. That's another thing close to my heart. I can't bear wasted food, and there's so much with RAP and other people that are doing, but maybe just a little something that people can do. But I don't know if there's a need.
Well, I think most of the subjects you've mentioned, I mean, acrylamide, I think it came and it went. But
yes.
Everything else you've mentioned, there is still a great need for sous vide. There's a great need for
sous vide course I wrote during COVID, so it is quite a significant amount of information.
The session I've just done tonight, I would normally do that in 6 hours.
Yeah,
it's not more that long. Exercise. So I condensed it into just over half an hour. So you can maybe do that, or maybe do 3/4 of an hour on your large course, and so that's the times that you want. But you'd be more than welcome to come and join us on that.
The difference with this forum, Karen, it's a great idea people to introduce themselves. Sometimes we've had 30 and 40 people on. So
too many.
Spotlights occasionally, and we like it to be the hour. We like it to be an evening, so people have a different kind of access. The difference with this is there's no pressure, and there's no expectation that you're going to give a whole of anything. We just say, if you want to do 15 minutes, I don't want to hold anyone to, oh, you didn't cover this, you didn't cover that. We're saying, well, that's not what this is about. If you want to go on a training course, go on a training course.
Yeah.
It's like just a taste of saying, here's some things that we think people might think are interesting. And that's all this is for. So within that, it's not difficult to design 15-20 minutes. It should take any professional should be able to design that in about an hour and a half, or 25 seconds with AI, which is
an hour and a half if you've got a full brain. So slightly longer for those of us that haven't, maybe.
Well, I mean,
I'm always on hand to help people.
When I did auditing and inspection earlier in the year, I split. It was a large subject area, and I split it into 2 sessions. So I had section A and section B. So I could quite happily spread it over 2 or more, and then space in between with someone else. There's no reason we can't do that. And would you be more than welcome to come aboard with us?
Well, my parting shot, Steve, is, do you know what? We've done this every month for about 3-4 years. You know what? We're giving all this out free of charge. Of course we are. So it's good to expect people to say, well, you've sat there 7 or 8 times this year and you've got an hour's CPD and whatever. So come on, pitch up, do some stuff. You know that everybody will always say the same. It was very useful, very interesting. Thank you very much. So why not do it? This is not the same pressure as designing a training course and trying to sell it. This is not selling. This is giving. It's to follow Steve's principle: give something out, get something back. So that's what this is for. And on that basis, everybody on this screen tonight, I'm holding you all to account. To come and come on now, let's get these names down now, Steve.
Yeah.
Emailing you.
There's only one thing, Karen. If you come on and do this, I want to see that ocean behind you.
It will be. I can't. Yeah, I can change it for the Aurora Borealis. I think that's another one of the backgrounds. But I like this. This is my favourite because it moves.
Yeah. Oh,
one day I will be.
The Aurora Borealis, yes, please.
Yes, me too. Because I'm never going to see it in real life. Thank you so much, everybody. I've had a lovely Monday evening. We're not sure about next month, are we now, Steve? Because we're just thinking.
Well, Debbie, I need to get in touch with Debbie.
Debbie Radage.
And see if she's arranging one for December.
Oh, great.
So hopefully we'll still be doing it.
Yeah.
But if not, it'll be New Year.
Yeah. All right. All the best, everybody.
Okay. Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.